Welcome to a new series, Serious Meme Analysis, where I look at right-wing memes and try and work out what they are saying. This is Ben Garrison, the right's favourite cartoonist, who consistently proves being able to draw and making political cartoons are separate skills. This video will revolve around the talk on campus, seemingly set on a university campus. The first thing you notice is that it's just a really busy image. Many Garrisons wouldn't look out of place on the pages of a Where's Wally or Where's Waldo, those books where you look for the man in the stripy shirt. The other thing that instantly detracts from the work is that there's no clear crux of what the joke is. There's a centrepiece, but it doesn't seem to be hugely relevant to the rest of the cartoon. This is framed as a debate with Stefan. For those of you who've managed to avoid the more culty parts of the internet, Stefan Molyneux in theory hosts a philosophy radio show which mostly revolves around him being very upset that women exist. Sadly, I was able to recognise Stefan from the demonic grin and balding head, proof Mr. Garrison is really quite good at illustration. Mr. Molyneux has turned up for a debate with a man in a balaclava who is quite clearly a cyclist. You can tell because he has very thin arms, biceps are just extra weight that won't spin the cranks, and cyclists are gram nerds, and brought a D-lock with him. Hopefully he ties his shoelaces or tucks them in before he gets back on his bike. We don't want his shoes getting trapped in the chain rings. Stefan has prepared very well for this debate. You can tell because he seems to have the mightiest wanking arm I've ever seen. Pro tip Stefan, switch to your left hand or do some other workout because it's getting a little ridiculous. Due to spending all his prep time wanking, he's felt the need to do the classic write the answers on your arm and then roll up your sleeve when nobody's looking. It's a shame he doesn't remind himself to use logic, reason, or evidence for his other endeavours, but I'm not going to criticise a man for trying to improve himself. Stefan does make a strong point, as illustrated in the speech bubble. Autistic screeching isn't an argument. It's strange that would come up in a debate, though. As someone with experience of both working with and related to autistic adults, I can confirm that if there is any screeching, it isn't a rhetorical device. It's usually an expression of frustration that people aren't listening or can't understand an issue. In a well-structured debate between a cyclist and a supposed philosopher, this shouldn't come up. Due to this miscommunication, the debate has devolved into an arm wrestle, and in that arena, wanker always beats cyclist. Now let's look at the rest of the picture. Here we have Lauren Southern, a Canadian YouTuber who is helpfully labelled like everyone in this cartoon because none of them are famous or striking enough to be easily recognised. She's claiming that free speech is A-OK, which I really don't think is being argued anywhere near as much as they think it is. But far more interestingly, she's doing that OK sign. The OK sign does, as always has been the case, mean OK. There was a small hoax started by 4chan to claim it meant white power, but it was quickly debunked and roughly 6 people heard about it. 2 of those 6 people appear to be in this cartoon, as stereotypical progressives. Having your ears pierced is apparently one of the 4 signs of progress, the others being goatees, frowny eyes, or dyed hair, I guess. Which brings me to the other weird thing about the right, and Southern in particular. They always make fun of how feminists have dyed hair, all the colours of the rainbow. But Lauren dyes her hair too. She even did a video about it. The only difference being she dyes it to look like someone else, whereas the more colourful people do it to stand out. Read into that what you will. Last point in this segment, see how Garrison needs to label a Molotov cocktail as violence. Would have thought that would be implied, really. Here is a picture of Mike C, where I believe the C stands for Cernovich. Mike is a big Trump supporter, and beyond that I can't really work out what he does. He wrote a book which is plugged in this image by replacing the 4th of July tablet in the statue's left hand. Given the scaling of this picture, it's fair to assume Mike C is 90 meters tall, as he's just slightly shorter than the tip of the statue, which is 93 meters tall, by the way. While I'm sure a 90-meter tall man would be quite useful at protecting statues, especially in the event of a King Kong or Godzilla attack, I'm not sure he's the right man to protect Lady Liberty. His politics don't really line up with the whole give me your tired, your poor, and your huddled masses. Here's your typical lazy leftist protesters. This is how bad the left has got. Rather than actually punching Nazis, we've resorted to writing signs and letting the punctuation do the work. Then there's this communist who can't even be bothered to do the sign right. Red hammer and sickle on a white background? Lenin would be spinning in his grave if he'd actually been buried. Equally lazy, the Black Lives Matter activist is just going with initials rather than any cogent point. If you're going to march against a 90-meter tall man and a philosophical wanker, at least put some policy ideas in your signs. That goes for the free stuff guy too. Nobody actually believes in free stuff, unless maybe he's just a college kid assuming there'll be a free lunch at the event. Here we have the obligatory safe space. I'm not one to lecture parents on how to do their job, but seriously, think keeping babies in a crate next to some riot police is sufficient? Safe spaces for babies are usually cribs or those clip-on gates to stop them going upstairs. They'll get a sunburn in the crate and it's just not good enough. Here we have another cyclist, but they seem to be very poorly prepared. Evidence suggests they might have crashed. They're shivering a little bit, which is never a good sign, and they've put on a warm but not very aerodynamic jacket, and are wearing a new era baseball cap that wouldn't really fit under most helmets. They haven't had time to lock up their bike, the lock is still in their pocket, and they appear to have really quite badly broken their right leg. It shouldn't be flexible like that. They appear to be leaking some fluid too, and have a bandage and some rubbing alcohol on the floor next to them. Quite rudely, the cyclist's attempt to seek medical help has been interrupted by a giant man in suspenders. I'm led to believe this is extreme libertarian web show host Gavin McInnes, but that can't be right because Gavin McInnes doesn't have two right hands as depicted. His question seems to be rather inappropriate too, as to my knowledge, Ann Coulter has very limited medical training. Here is the final piece of the puzzle. I'm told this Kira woman is famous for wearing a not quite Trump hat and being pepper sprayed. In this cartoon, she's using her expertise in being pepper sprayed to advise this woman, who appears to be Elaine Benes from Seinfeld. This is classic Elaine, trying to upstage Jerry by pepper spraying herself. She's probably about to do that terrible dance next. So there you go, a cartoon with lots of helpful labels teaching us about cycling safely through a university campus.